Hey everybody, it's Drew Preston with College Gamer here today to have a playthrough of World of Tanks. Um, so what we have here is the IS-8, otherwise known as the T-10 tank historically, Tier 9 Soviet tank. Now there's 10 tiers of tanks in the game, tiers 1 through 10. So Tier 9's pretty high up there, so it's not a bad tank by any means. And I have the experience points to get to Tier 10 tank, which I'll show you right here, but I choose not to because I love my IS-8 too much. But if I ever did want to, I could go to the IS-7, which is a Tier 10 heavy tank. But as it is right now, the IS-8 is my tank of choice to play with. It's armed with a 122 millimeter gun, which is very, very good. It does about 530 damage max, um, which is quite good in the game at least, because tanks have like the best tanks have around, I'd say, 1600, 1700 hit points on average. So 500 damage a shot is quite good. Also armed, not armed, but has a nice turret with some fairly decent armor, 200 millimeters armor in the front. And then the only weak spots, since it's rounded turret, is good at bouncing shots, but when you get to the back, the rear of the turret, it's very easy to penetrate with shells. I've heard rumors that a tier 3 tank destroyer can actually pierce through the rear armor of this tank. Uh, Personally, I've never played against a tier 3 with this tank, so I've never experienced that. But against any other tank, and like other tanks, the armor is weaker in the back, so that's a downside to that. But otherwise, since it's rounded and thick most everywhere else, it's a very good turret on top of the chassis of the tank. Also have a R113 radio. That's pretty good. It lets you signal range of 730 meters. Lets your allies know the positions of enemy tanks when you come across them, so you can call in for support, things like that. Also have a V12 engine, 750 horsepower. It gives the top speed of about 30 miles an hour. They measure things in kilometers per hour in this game, but so in kilometers per hour, it's about a max speed of 51. In miles per hour, I'd say it's 30. So because of this, I like to call it, and a lot of other people call it, a super medium tank. It's classified in the game as a heavy tank, but it drives like a medium tank. It has the size of a heavy tank. The armor, well, not I wouldn't say the armor. The armor is less than that of its tier 8 predecessor, the IS-3, um, which I guess would classify it as medium tank. But its speed and mobility, personally, I would consider it a super medium tank. And you also have the chassis, I mean the tracks and suspension, which don't really do anything except increase your rotation speed and allow you to add more equipment because it can bear more weight. Um, so this is what it looks like with the winter camouflage. Um, we have summer camouflage and we have desert camouflage. Um, Now we have some other pieces of equipment we've added onto here to increase its performance. We have a heavy spall liner, which is some extra armor protection from explosions. So people use high explosive shells to damage modules on your tank, and this helps negate that by 30%, and also protects your crew uh, by 30 more percent, all up here, which are vital to the operation of your tank in game. I also have a enhanced gun laying drive for plus 10 to aiming speed, so it increases my accuracy uh, very much so. We also have a large caliber tank gun rammer, the minus 10 to loading time. This thing can load a shell in about 10 and a half seconds, roughly. Normally I have 25 armor piercing rounds, no high explosive anti-tank rounds because they're too expensive. And high explosive rounds for damaging modules, about 4 of those. I actually need to restock. Anyways, yes, and so it's not a cheap tank to play with, so I have a T-70 light tank to play with uh, to finance me playing with this IS-8. That's a fairly decent tank. And I also have the SU-8 artillery piece, tier 6, like around a 30-second reload time, but it's very, very powerful. For tier 6 at least. Alright, so, as I said, we'll be getting into game shortly, so let's see what the IS-8 can do. Alright, so we're on the map called Hidden Valley. I was the highest tier tank, and I wasn't the highest tier tank, I was the top on the list on my team. And, in essence, what I was going to plan on doing here was go to sectors F6 and 5 on the map with my tank and hold those spots as best as I could. This is something that IS-8 is very good at. Because it has a speed of a medium tank, it can rush out to these points on the map before most anything else is going to get there. The only thing that's going to beat you there are light tanks and probably most medium tanks, but as with your armament and your frontal armor, you don't really have too much to fear from those, except a heavy tank, which, you know, those aren't going to get there before you. So here we've spotted first enemies. I can't see any of them yet because they are behind the cliffside there. But situate myself behind this rock. And I know camping is frowned upon, but it works. And that's basically what I did here. Now, there was an IS-3 behind this rock that I couldn't quite damage, which was odd because my shells were hitting it on the top of the engine block, I think, on the back. That was the KV-4 right there. The IS-3 was after that. Since I couldn't damage it, I started using my high explosive shells to damage it a little bit, just 40, 50 hit points of damage, and damaging some modules at the same time. So, in essence, it was a waiting game for him to come out from behind there so that I could pop a few shots at him. See, right here. I'm not using high explosive shells yet, because I had yet to find out that I couldn't penetrate him, and I had to begin using the high explosive shells to damage something. And that's the one thing about this game. It's not like Call of Duty or, you know, Battlefield where you can just go around shooting anything, anywhere, and expect to damage it. You have to strategically place your shots. For example, the armor of these tanks is weaker on the rear and sides of the chassis and turret. So, and it's risky trying to swing around because it's trying to swing around and attack them from those spots because they usually have support behind them. Now, I've memorized where most of the weak spots are on these tanks, and it's a lot easier to hit those spots when you're closer up, as you'll see, because I couldn't hit them here. Now I decided to move up a little bit because most of the tanks on that ridge to my left are being taken care of. And here, ramming actually does damage. I was able to take out a tank by doing that. 1,100 collective hit points of damage. That was my first kill of the game, but it immobilized my suspension, so I was stuck there for a few seconds, and I didn't want to waste my repair kit on something like that. Now I had the KV-4 to take care of. He's a lower tier than me, so I should probably take that out. So since the tank to the left of it was destroyed, I can go in and take care of it myself. I aim towards under its chassis, easy penetration there. Tier 9 tank destroyer was really difficult to get at. American tank destroyers have really thick frontal armor, so I didn't expect I'd be getting any damage in on that anytime soon. So right now I was going to try and see if there's anything I could do here before switching and swinging around sectors G8 to go and protect the right side of the map to prevent being flanked and have our base taken over. And again, I ricocheted off the IS-3. So seeing that most of our tanks were here, and only one of our tanks was on the right side of this map, or two of the tanks right side of this map, I thought, since I have the speed of a medium tank, I'm going to swing around and go and prevent any attempt at flanking. which got me one more kill, but I died in the process. But 3 kills is not bad at all. And it was a risky move since I had under half of my hit points left, 798 out of 1800. Fortunately, I have no crew members injured or no modules damaged, but I did use my repair kit to get out of a sticky situation a few minutes ago, so I have no repair kit left. So as you can see, the speed of this tank as a heavy tank is quite substantial. Now here's that Tier 9 American Tank Destroyer I was complaining about that I couldn't get. And now I did not know there were 2 medium tanks on the right side of the map that were popping shots at me. I was able to get this tank right here, I believe. Yeah. And so that was another kill from me. 3 kills from me. Now this tank destroyer would be my undoing in this match, and there's those 2 medium tanks I was talking about. So I just had to get behind this hill so they couldn't get me, but this tank destroyer got me in the end. I was able to get in a shot on him, on his engine, I believe. Right there, 404 damage and hit points damage, but he killed me right here. He hit me on the side. So we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teammates left. One of whom had disconnected, we believe, because he was just sitting there. Now this tank right here, the low, very, very good. I believe he took out the IS-3 or one of those 2 medium tanks over there. Yes, the low is a very good Tier 8 German tank. I'd say it's about the equivalent of the IS-3, just a little bit taller, not as low profile, which is kind of a bad thing. And the turret's not as rounded, but I do believe it had a little bit of a better gun. Now here, under normal circumstances in which the map would have, or where both teams would have an artillery piece, I would not have recommended that clustering up of those 3 right there. But since there's no artillery on the map, I don't think it's that much of a problem. And this was our AFK player here, the American Tank Destroyer. That would have been really useful, but we still ended up winning. But it would have helped. Yeah, that's the only bad thing about this, the IS-3 and the low tank are really slow, so when you get to the IS-8, if you're going down the Soviet line, upgrading from an IS-3 to an IS-8, the speed increases at least 2-fold. And there's our AFK tank destroyer again, that would have been useful. So now, in these guys' shoes, I would be going for their base, swinging around, because they have 3 players left, 2 of which were on the right side, I believe. And then you have this heavy tank on the top left corner of the map, who, with 3 other tanks right there, they could take him out easily, and then go for the base. Which is what they did, but I wish they would have done it a little bit faster. Now he's not going to go right now because he had to wait for the support behind him to come up, so that they could do a little bit of a 2-pronged attack. This is also a very good tank. Surprisingly good gun for a medium tank. Looks more like an APC to me, but, you know. 310 points of damage on that. So now is when they go for the base. Which shouldn't prove to be any trouble because I believe their last medium tank was on the the right side of the map, so he can't take on these 3 tanks by himself, so it should be in the bag. And again, the low tank's very slow getting there, but good gun. Now, he needs to turn around to prevent getting shot in the back because the armor's weaker. He does that eventually, but I would have done it right then and there. And that was the end of the game. Now here are the results of the match in which I got 3 tanks, damaged 5, and for your first victory every day you get times 2 experience. So normally would have gotten 835 experience. Since it's times 2, it's 1670 experience. Also with a 31,256 credit earnings, which is not bad. Now, if anyone does start playing this game, uh, and they're interested in playing this game by watching this video, it needs to be known that getting to play with a tank like the IS-8, earning it takes a really long time. If it can take like at least a month, if you try really hard to get that high. I've seen people with lots and lots of tier 10, tier 9 tanks, so they must have no life. But if you're a college student like me, college gamer, you don't have a bunch of time to commit to grinding through these tech trees and getting these really ridiculously good tanks. But when you do, if you get 1 or 2 tier 9 or tier 10 tanks, they're really fun to play with, but you just need to make sure that you have a lower tier tank like the T70 or SU8 that I showed you to finance it and make money with it. Um, but regardless, any tank you play with in this game is a blast, and I would recommend this game to anyone who buys it. Not buys it, well, freemium game, you don't have to buy it, but there are some features of the game that are add to the experience, uh, so to say, by paying just a couple bucks, which is worth it in the end. You know, I paid a couple bucks to get those camouflage patterns on my tank, and it was worth it, I think. I'd had to pay a couple bucks for some of the equipment that I got on my tank, and again, that was worth it. Um, but all in all, if you don't want to pay any money, it's still fun to play. Uh, and this has been Drew Preston, a college gamer. Thanks, and have a good day.